You're tuned in to Cosmidelic Down with your host,
poetry legend, philosopher,
Mark Marcel.
All right, man. Well, we're going to get right into this, man. We are plugged into the Cosmidelic download, and I am honored to have my guest here today for a number of reasons. One of the reasons that people don't know is because this is round 2 of recording. He's like, you know what? I'm going to give you another freebie, okay? So, but Sekou Andrews, poet extraordinaire, artist, governor, right? Governor.
A chapter.
Right.
Yeah, we got to tell them what that means. Governor of the Recording Academy, LA chapter. I was in a meeting with poets the other day, and I said, because in being a governor, I want to make. And somebody was like, "You're a governor, like of what state?" And I was like, "No."
Right, exactly. I can already see it. Man. For real, man. Dude, man. As I was telling you last time, I'll tell it again because people don't know. The first time I met you, man, you probably don't remember meeting me. But why would you?
Who you are right now? Who are you? No, I was playing. Go ahead.
Right. What interview is this?
Right. What is this? Who are you?
Right.
Look this up. I don't even know what I'm doing here. Go ahead.
But man, I was a little annoyed and jealous. Not really jealous, but like friendly jealous, because I had the idea for a double CD. But this was when I was first doing poetry, And then I forgot what spot it was, but it was at Bis and Cocktails. They hosted the spot. And you were like,
shout out to Bis and Cocktail.
Yeah. And you did your feature. And then you was like, yo, I got this double CD. And I was like, God damn it. Damn it. And you are first poet that rocked that out, man. Dude, what made you go there? What made you just put a big stamp on the movement like that? Just come up with a CD like that.
I mean, I was just, first of all, I had a lot of work, and I wanted the work to be out there. So I was just in creative artist share mode, first and foremost. Second of all, I was, I recognized that, second of all, I was doing the math, right? So just the entrepreneurial brain in me was just like, look, I was standing next to cats, whereas we finish our show, we go hit the merch table, everybody's lined up next to each other. And I was standing next to cats that, let's say they might have sold 40 CDs,
right,
$10, and I sold 30 CDs at 20. And everybody was like, well, why you do it for $20? Like, ain't nobody gonna buy these poetry CDs for $20. Right. And first of all, I was like, why not? Like, people buy other albums, and I think art shit is just as dope. You know what I mean? So I put work into these albums. These ain't just BS, recorded albums. It was years of production went into them.
Right.
So, I was like, I think it's dope. I think it's worth it, and I'm gonna sell it for 20. And if I sell 30 at $20 and you sell 40 at $10, I'm still coming up on the math. Right. So that was a good business move for myself, because I ended up, lining the pockets with more cash. And then the third thing was, I had people that were like, yo, like my managers and so forth would be like, yo, you blowing your load. Like, what's the whole, you giving up 2-3 CDs worth of stuff in one joint. Right. And I was like, yeah, but that might be true if you apply the same metrics to a major label artist, because they have a shelf life on their record. So they might, they release their record and they got 9 months to a year to work it before people are like, that's an old record. Right. We, as poets on the underground scene, selling our joints live at events, we could work our record for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was like shelf life was so much longer that I was like, I need to make sure that this piece has enough poems on it so that if I come back, if I do a set at this venue and I rock 3 pieces, I come back to this venue a year later, I rock a different 3 pieces, they still on the same CD and I can sell it. I come back a year later, I rock a different 3 pieces, you know what I mean? They still on the same CD, I can sell it, you know what I mean? So I'm just sort of like doing the entrepreneurial math, going like, I can make the shelf life long enough for me to eat off this for several years. So it just made sense.
Yeah. Well, dude, you definitely made it work, man, for real. Because I like from that, like I say, that especially your performance, dude. Like you can tell, man, in the production in it, because you come from a rapping background. Am I correct?
Yeah, I came from, I was an MC, I was an actor, I was a songwriter and producer.
So what made you make the transition into spoken word?
You know, I was too poetic for hip hop.
Right.
I mean, I was getting record label execs that were telling me, "Oh, we love your lyrics." You know, I listen to them every day on the way to work to go to that label, but it ain't shoot 'em up, kill. It ain't bitches and it ain't bling bling enough for me to sell it to my boss.
Right.
So then I was like, well, all right, I'm gonna just do the, you know, do it myself, right? Do a little vanity label and start do it myself. It was the MC Hammer model, right? Back
Right.
then, that was like, now it's you know, now it's what everybody's doing. But back then, like, Hammer was one of the first people that said, I'm gonna sell 30,000 units myself and make the labels come, you know, do a bidding war to get me.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, let me try that model. And so I started Blind Faith Records, my little vanity label, and I started releasing my products myself. And I started going to open mics to build a fan base for my music.
Right.
But I loved that at the open mics, people just appreciated me for my words. I didn't have to worry about the politics of hip hop. I didn't have to worry about the hook and the beat, and whether this was, I was talking about the commercial stuff and so forth. People were just like, yo, your words are dope. And so I spit my hip hop, more spoken word style, kind of conversationally, and that took off. My name got big on the scene, and then I started doing more traditional spoken word, and that took off, and the name got bigger on the scene. And I was like, damn, I came in thinking I was building a fan base for my hip hop, but I accidentally fell in love with spoken word poetry.
Right.
And I found myself more excited about pioneering new trails for spoken word poetry than being into the sea of demos out there. So next thing you know, 4 years later, I was like, I was teaching at the time, and I started teaching 5th grade elementary school in South Central for about 4 years. When I started as a teacher, I was going to the DPL, to Jerry Quigley, Spot 33 and the Third, to Fly Poet, trying to build a fan base for my hip hop. By the time I came out, I was a full-time poet, and I was like, oh shit, all right, I'm gonna have to figure out this model now and actually go create a model for what full-time poetry looks like.
Right. What would you say is the biggest changing moment in your career as a poet that just where you could say it just turned it from going to amateur to pro? You know what I'm saying? Maybe not. I don't want to say, because I mean, you're a pro as soon as you start making money with it. You know what I'm saying? But you know, where you really was like, this is it. Like, I have, I guess, arrived, quote unquote.
Yeah. It's hard, man, because for spoken word poetry, it is a constant uphill battle.
Yeah.
You know, I just celebrated in June. I just celebrated 23 years as a full-time professional poet. Quit my last full-time job 23 years ago as a teacher, and have been making my money off this art. And it's been an uphill battle every single season.
Yeah.
And part of that is because I don't stay complacent. I'm real big on innovation. I'm real big on pushing the envelope. I'm real big on taking poetry into places where it is dismissed, right? So I didn't build my career to where it is by taking poetry to where poetry was already beloved.
Right.
I took poetry to where people were saying poetry doesn't belong here, because I felt like that's the only way that we're going to be able to make long-term success, is to convert these other industries that keep saying we don't like poetry. Poetry doesn't have any value. Poetry doesn't belong here. And so as a result, I doomed myself to a constant Sisyphus style uphill battle of always having the hardship of having to convert a new audience. So that hasn't necessarily been just that one moment where it was like, and then I got signed, and then I made $1 million, and then there was the world tour. It's been more of these micro conversion pivot moments throughout, where each one I was able to sit back and say, I'm going to take this moment and I'm going to flip it into 3 more moments. You know what I mean? I've always had that mentality. I remember talking to poets that were super excited about getting on Def Poetry, and they were acting like Def Poetry was going to be the end all be all, right? I remember just like, yo, like I remember, you know, coming home from winning nationals, and the first thing I did when I woke up the next morning was I wrote a press release. I didn't know how to write a press release. I didn't have press to send the press release to, but I was just like, I do not want this to just be a moment that I tell my kids 20 years later, remember when daddy was on TV.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was like, so how can I make sure that I'm turning this into something that that's a vehicle for my next step? Right. And so if I was going to say, probably one of the pivotal moments was the night I quit my when I quit my job. I quit my job. It was a Friday, and then 4 or 5 days later, I had my first CD release show at Fly Poet, which is a venue in LA. And I remember doing one of the best sets of my life. And I stepped out onto the streets afterwards. I was surrounded by fans, and I made my rent in CD sales that night. And I remember when the crowd cleared, I remember standing there just on the streets of Santa Monica Boulevard, looking up at the sky, thinking, all right, I can do this. You know what I mean? Like, it was the first sort of confirmation that I had of, like, because I mean, you got to imagine quitting a full-time paying job, benefits, retirement, and all that to go be a poet with no models to follow on what that's going to look like. And so it was like, it was an incredibly intimidating move and step. And so I just felt like I got that confirmation to say, all right, you can do this. And I always, like, when I tell the story, I'm like, the next day I took off to DC, did a poetry tour there, came home with a wad of cash. 3 weeks later, I took off to Atlanta, did like a week-long poetry tour there, came home with a wad of cash. 3 weeks later, I won the National Poetry Slam Championship. So now I'm the #1 slam poet in the country, and my name begins to precede me. A month or two later, I joined my first national poetry tour that I did, called the Underground Poets Railroad, and then won nationals again, and then did another tour with Declare Yourself. And then it was just like, again, it was like all this confirmation. And I always say, like, for me, it felt like God was saying, what took you so long? Right. And like, I've been holding all your blessings, waiting for you to come get your stuff, boy, here. Right. You know what I mean? And I just had to go get it.
Yeah. Respect. Well, in regards to what took you so long to come to this album? Tell us how because the name is a very creative name. Because tell me a little bit about the album and the significance of it to you.
Yeah, man. It's, this is the biggest album I've done. I'm super proud of it. I joke with some folks, some of my peers, like Sheba, that she releases albums on the Jay-Z schedule, and I release albums on the Sade schedule. She got an album out every year, and I be putting joints out like every 5 to 10 years. And it takes me a while, because I'm wrapped up in a lot of other projects. I'm always looking at where else. Like, after I've done something, I go, cool, I did that. Right. Now what? You know what I mean? Right. And so, but music was my first love. So right. When I return to music, it's like it cracks open something carnal in me. And when I did the last album, it was with a very clear intention. Just like with my work in the corporate world, having to convert corporations that were saying poetry doesn't belong at our leadership meeting, it belongs at our Christmas party. And I had to change their minds and converted some of the biggest companies in the world to become spoken word lovers, use their work in brands and blah, blah, marketing campaigns. When I created Poetic Voice as a speaking category, it was like, same thing. Poetry only, nobody wants to listen to poetry for longer than 3 to 5 minutes. I was like, there's a long form version of it here that can exist in a 60-minute keynote. And so I'm always going to, what's next. And so when I turned my attention to music, it was very much like, it's bullshit that we don't get to win our own Grammy as poets. Right. And all the poets felt that, but I think there was just this sense of, that's just how it is. You know what I mean? Because we don't, like you were just talking a minute ago, like, we don't even have access to the Grammys. We don't even believe that the Grammys is a possibility for us. And especially when our category was combined with audiobooks, right. It just wasn't a fair fight. It was like we competing with presidents and giant publishers and celebrities, and it's not even the same art form. And so why even bother? Yeah. And like, once again, it was kind of like, all right, well, me being my delusional entrepreneur self, I was like, I'm going to try to go change that. Right. And just a little old me, like David and Goliath campaign, no label, no $1 million marketing budget, just pure grit and purpose. Yeah. And then I got the nomination, and that's what I think helped to catalyze some of the work. The work was already being done. J. Ivy, put together. J. Ivy was already a Chicago chapter president, a governor, then president, and then afterwards became a trustee. But he was putting in work. He was working with cats in the academy, inside of the system, right? I was outside the system. And what I believe was that there was that sort of perfectly timed 1-2 punch where the minute I got my nomination, it sort of brought awareness. Like, my greatest joy of getting it was all the poets that DM'd me and called me. It was like, thank you. Like, we didn't even believe this was possible. Like, how did it happen? It sort of cracked open this new possibility. Yeah, it did. Then made a lot of the people that were on the ground doing the work, it helped to catalyze that, and that's the only part that I feel like I played in it.
Yeah.
Because I just helped to make that work that much easier and more palatable for the Academy to say, you know what, we hadn't thought about this until this moment, and now let's go for it. And so that was the intention with that album. With this album, it was like, I haven't released the album now in 5 years, and we have our own category, and I want to do something that I feel is worthy of us having our own category now. So I went into this album with this mindset of like, I'm just going to try to create, just keep pushing the envelope in the way that I deliver poetry over music. I believe that spoken word is not bound to any one particular genre of music. So I love creating albums that have lots of different genres of music. Yeah. So that was really my purpose. And then the idea of the name of the album came from the poem, The Lightning Machine, in which I have a line that says, I'm a machine designed to convert pain into art. So if I fold under pressure, it's to become origami. They said my flavor can't exist, so I made myself Koumami. And Koumami is a combination of my name and the flavor umami, and I wanted to inspire people to create their own flavor and to be afraid to be the flavor of what's next. And so that's really what led to the album name Koumami. But the album just got bigger and bigger. Jordan Sparks signed on, Lion Babe signed on, Omari Hardwick joined up. Marcus Bellringer, who's just hit 1 billion streams as a producer. David Ryan Harris, amazing producers. Celeste Prince, like Malta and Christian of California Music. Like it was just on and on and on. All these amazing producers and writers and guest artists. Matt B, who I was just on his Grammy winning album last year. And so it just got big and big and big, and the work got just incredible. And I was like, yo, this is something that I'm incredibly proud of as my legacy. So y'all make sure you go cop Koumami.
Yeah, definitely check it out, man, for real. Though, as we get out of here, I think it's very big for the artists, for the poets to join in on this as our art. And I know you were one of the very few that I saw like really getting into it and winning. And you're right, winning that in that round in the audio books before it was spoken word poetry. That was huge, man, for real. That was so huge. Give a little bit of enlightenment to people who aren't in the Grammys, but who are poets, who you would say to be able to participate in the Grammys. What would you say to them? Because I see it as a frat without the hazing, and it's like a family, man. It's like it's. We were just talking about that, like how it's a privilege, it's an honor to be amongst you, to be your peer.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, you get a lot of folks on the outside that just look in on the outside. It's easy to complain about everything. It's not. Everything has problems. There's no perfect system. There's no perfect community. But it is certainly, for me, what made it my target, and why I put so many resources into saying we deserve to have a nomination and a win, is because so much of my career has been dedicated to trying to create more of a industry for our art form, right? I think the reason why we have the perception of the broke poet is because we don't have industry. We don't have as many ways to make money and to monetize our art form. And part of that is because we don't have labels chasing after us. We don't have agents. We don't have infrastructure. We don't have unions. We don't have all the infrastructure that when a pop artist does something amazing, everybody in the industry says, let's put you inside of this machine and we'll make you a hit. There's no machine for us, right? And so I just found myself going, how do we create more of a machine? That's what led to saying, well, what if we convert these speaking agents and bureaus to have them stop believing that poetry has no place on speaking stages. So now poets are starting to get work. And I get so many poets that are coming to me like, yo, I just got booked. I got so-and-so. And I only got that because somebody sat me down and pointed to you and said, follow this model. You know what I mean? And the same thing with the corporate work and the same. And so when I turned my attention to music, it was like, we are recording artists. Why are we being like, when I actually applied to become a member to the Recording Academy, I got rejected.
Right.
Sent them everything. I was heavy in my career at the time. I wasn't where I am, but I was still plenty of proof of concept. Right. And it was just like,
so you didn't get in on the first round?
Like, get in on the first round. Like, I looked to appeal. I sent them, I asked for everything they asked for. I sent them everything they asked for. Articles, press, website, accolade, all the stuff, awards that I won and so forth. I'm a professional in the industry, and I got rejected, and I had to hop on a call and have an appeal call, and then finally the person was like, "Okay, I see it," and they let me through. It's not hard now, right? But it's hard for the people that are going first.
Right, right. Exactly.
And so I'm proud of those aspects of it that are like, no, it's like I looked at the Grammys and I was like, if we are going to get labels that want to sign spoken word, if we are going to get people that are going to try to commercialize this and have licensing deals and so forth, if that's going to become easier and easier, then we need the metrics. If you ask somebody, some people know what the difference between a platinum selling artist and a non-platinum selling artist is. So if you say I'm a gold selling artist, if you say I had a Billboard hit, blah, 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 there's a sense of that comes with a sense of esteem. That comes with, oh, we should expect that this person's on another level. That comes with a sense of, we should expect to pay this person's fee. So when they look up and they see, oh, this person costs XX dollars, they're not surprised when that's accompanied with Billboard #1 artist, platinum selling artists, et cetera. We don't have those accolades as poets. So what I began to realize was the only way we're going to be able to increase our fees and to monetize is if the industry, if we get those industry recognitions. And a Grammy is one of the biggest music industry recognitions that we can get. So that's why it was so purpose-driven for me, because I was like, once we start getting Grammys, then it's going to create this trickle effect where now that person 5 years after me, 10 years after me, that's trying to get a label deal, we'll be able to get that label deal easier. We'll be able to get that licensing, those sync licensing. We'll be able to get all that, the agents and the reps, because they will be able to say, I'm a Grammy-winning artist. And that means something to people who don't give a damn about poetry, but they understand what the Grammys is. So for me, I think when you start thinking about the power of joining this community, you're joining a community of like-minded recording industry professionals, whether they're producers, songwriters, engineers, mixers, session players, singers, whatever it is. It's people that have dedicated some aspect of their life to this art form in a professional manner. So suddenly you become a part of that community that is doing everything from advocating on Capitol Hill for how to protect artists from AI to joining each other's albums. Yo, let me jump on yours. I'm looking for a session player. Oh, you a singer? Oh, cool. Oh, I love your work. Let me play guitar on it. Cool. You looking for a didgeridoo player or a kazoo player, whatever. I know somebody. You know what I mean? Now you got this community, and you're all joining for not just for people who want Grammys, but people who love making music, people who love being recording artists, and you join that, so you get resources, you get access, you get education, you get access to the Grammys educational events, you get access to all of their resources that help indie artists. It's different for us indie artists than the major artists. Major artists got the labels behind them. They got support, right? So you don't see them out there hobnobbing and networking because they just put the billboards up and they got the, the managers and so forth. But for us, we out at the events. We networking, we fellowship, and we building community. And now so many of the folks that have been behind my album and have shown up for me in so many ways are just because I showed up for them selflessly once I started joining this community. And they were like, yo, he's a rider for us. We're a rider for him. That's the beauty to me of being a part of this Grammy community.
Yeah, dude.
And last thing I also got to say is that I joined specifically to advocate for spoken word poetry. Yeah. Right. So that was the thing, was that there's, I'm connected to all these other indie musicians, but for me, it's very much about, we have a category. Let's make sure that it's a healthy category by getting artists to submit albums. So I'm supporting dozens and dozens of artists and helping them to submit their albums, create their albums. And then it's also about recruiting and making sure that we get members to get poets to become members of the Academy, so that we are being voted on by our peers, so that it's voting on poets, right? And so all of that, I'm bringing so many poets into the Academy. I'm helping the poets to submit. And I think the people like Jay, like Sheba, like Natalie, like all these people that I know that are really advocating and riding for the poets inside of the Grammy community are making sure that we are represented, and making sure that they see us and understand our art form differently than they might some of the other genres, so that the way that the requirements that we have to get in, the requirements that we have for our album, that they're seeing us for who we are and our uniqueness and our difference. And that just takes work, and that takes advocacy. And so, we're just constantly being voices for that. And that's why we need y'all to be a part of the Academy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. Respect. I want to say to you, and it really didn't hit me until learning a little bit of more things that I did. And I want to thank you, dude, for knocking down barriers and paving a road that I did not realize made it easier for me to walk down.
Oh, word.
Yeah, respect to that. I appreciate
I
that.
appreciate that, man. I appreciate hearing that. Honestly, like it's a, it can be a lonely path. You get all the poets there. Everybody got smack to talk, and everybody's like, everybody. As soon as somebody don't get put on, they like, oh, Koo ain't pooping, blah blah. But my biggest joy, like I said, put it this way, when I got my nomination, it did not do a tremendous. It was not a tremendous catalyst for my career. And the reason is because I got my nomination in 2019. Right. So 2020, a few months later, the world exploded. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the whole industry shut down. So all momentum that I was going to have, I didn't benefit from it. Right. But she benefited from it. People that hit me up that were like, this is now part of our possibility that we had previously dismissed. Exactly. And that, to the work of inspiration. To me, inspiration is a peephole into possibility. And so when I myself as I'm in the inspiration business, I'm in the business of creating little peepholes where people, all they see is a wall until somebody creates a crack or a little hole. And now all of a sudden somebody can see into that hole. They can see a possibility on the other side, and that makes them want to knock the wall down. And that, to me, is the work that I'm trying to do. So when I'm putting poets on for corporate gigs, or I'm bringing people into the speaking industry, or I'm recruiting people into the academy, or whatever it is that I'm doing, there's a higher purpose for me that has made me take the harder path. I have not taken the path of just get the most money, because I would have taken a completely different path if I did. I wouldn't have named what I do spoken word, bro. Do you know how many business advisors that I had that told me, when you're creating your category, drop the word poetry? Right. Yeah. Wow. At 3 zeros to your paycheck. Wow. And but my purpose is to build a industry for poetry. I can't do that if I abandon the very word that's driving me. So I'm taking the harder path. So to me, that's the joy, is when, like, I'm here in Vegas. I remember being at this exact hotel a few months ago, and this brother came running up in the lobby and saw me, and he was like, I'm speaking at this event that you're speaking at. I just did my little session. And like I said, he was like, the only reason why I'm here is because when I said, I think I want to do this, but I don't know what to do, this sister sat me down and said, I've hired this brother multiple times. Here's his website, study him. And he's like, and I studied you, and I'm here. And I want to thank you for that. And so while I'm trying to actively put people on, part of the joy of what you do and when it's purpose driven is that you just don't even know how many people are in your wake. You know what I mean? You just have to know that inside of that wake that you're leaving are people who now have a path to follow where previously you didn't. And that obviously is just one of the biggest joys. And I don't even know, I don't get to meet those people until they come to me. I don't know if they exist, but I just trust that they're out there. And that's me fighting this hard ass fight for this art form, bro, because it is not free. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I received that, and thank you, man. Yeah, no, man, dude. The work you've already done has already enlightened my life more just now. Like nothing else. If nothing else happens, what I've already gained has enlightened more of my life. Like the people who I've met, you know what I'm saying? Just the camaraderie. I meet good people, and the roads you've paved have made that a road that has made it easier for me to walk down. So you've already affected my life in ways that I didn't even know. And I appreciate that, man. Yeah, for real, respect. And being that you are a slam champion and you know a little bit about time, you have gone a little bit over than what I know. We getting the wave. We getting the wave. Artistic and grace. Yeah, we're getting away, right. But don't worry. I'm not going to penalize. I'm going to be one of them judges that didn't act like we went overtime and show the whole thing. Because I think it's very deserving. Plus, you're a governor, so you've earned it. Which state is the question? Which state, right? For real. to be determined, right? That's right. Yeah, but dude, man, it's been a pleasure having you. People, go check out Koumami. It's a dope album, man. This is a dope artist. He's a good dude. Check out his work, Sekou Andrews. Sekou World, right? Sekou World on IG. Sekou Andrews on pretty much everything else. That's what's up. Sekou, man, it's been a pleasure to have you, man. Thanks for joining the Cosmidelic Download. Hey, Mark, I appreciate the invite, baby, all day. Cuckoo.